All right, guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a joint on here, and you're going to apply what I do to the joints that you draw. So my joints are going to be different in size and so on to yours, but because I'm not doing the same joint that you will do, and you will apply it to your own project. What I do want you to see, what I do want you to learn from this is how to do a thing called joints. That means join parts together, and then you're going to use that to create an exploded view of the joint and then render it. So I'll just quickly go ahead and draw a dovetail joint here. So I'm going to draw two pieces of timber and do the joint. So I've already worked out all these sizes and things, so I don't actually have to think about this too much. So I'll just go ahead and do this. Try and do as quick as I can. If you need to, you can fast forward through this step, or you can watch it and maybe work out what sizes you might like to use for your own project. Where is it? Sketch dimension. What have I done? Oh, let me backtrack. I need to reopen that sketch. There we go. I shouldn't have stopped it. Sketch dimension. That line looks wrong. It's not a straight line. Do that again. I must have double clicked there or something. Most of the time the angle for a dovetail joint is around about 80 degrees. I'll show you a little trick here. So this dimension is D10. See that? It's written there D10. So what I can actually do with this sketch dimension button is I can, what have I done now? Did I choose that command? Instead of typing angle in there, I can type D10 and it'll make it exactly the same as that first one, that D10 angle. Which means if I screw up the angle or realise that it's wrong, I can edit one and they'll all change. Let me just very quickly demonstrate that. So I double click and realise that should have been 75. Oh, didn't I check that? Look at that. I didn't even do what I said. Yeah, so let's put this back to 80 and all those should change. As you can see there. Stop sketch. Go back to the home view. I'm going to extrude now. And select those three faces. I'm going to type in -19. That's that there. Right, now I'm going to draw the other part. That's one part. Create a sketch. It's also going to be on this bottom plane. I'll draw it down here. It's going to be a rectangle. 70 tab 180. Right, stop sketch. Extrude 19. Create a sketch on here. Draw a rectangle. Try that. 19. Need to reopen that sketch and finish drawing it. dimensions, it was 4mm from the end, it was 6mm between them, 4mm here. One of these, we only need to do one, it's going to be 28, and the angle, if you remember, was 80, but I can again simply type D10. D10, D10, D10. Stop sketch. Have I done this correctly? I hope so. Extrude that shape and that shape. I'm going to go -19. That looks correct. Alright, just to make it a little bit easier to see, we're going to add an appearance to this. So I'm going to do them both different to each other so that there's a contrasting material, an appearance. 3D maple curly glossy looks good. We'll do that one. Yep, I always like walnut. So I'm going to download it. It's downloaded and drag it onto there. And close. Alright, we're ready to join these using what's called joints. Now, joints aren't going to work until we make these parts components. At the moment, they're bodies. They're both listed here. And you can see if I highlight one in the browser here, it'll highlight each separate one, but we need to make them components. The simple way to do that is right-click on the bodies and create components from bodies. And there we go, component 1, component 2. You could rename these if you really wanted, but I'm not going to name it something a bit more meaningful. Alright, now we're going to assemble. Actually, the first thing I want to do, I want to choose one of these components, and this one will do. And I'm going to right-click and ground it. That means that's going to be stuck to the ground. You can tell by the little pin there, it's not going to move anywhere. Alright, now we're going to assemble. So I'm going to click the joint, or I could have hit J on the keyboard. Okay, let me continue. Okay, we're going to create a joint to place these parts together. You actually have to think about this a little bit and think about how this is going to join together. So basically, this flat face that I'm pointing to here will, when this joint is put together, will be sitting flush against this face here, which means this edge here is actually going to be aligned with this edge. So we need to think about that when we do these joints. You have to think about this stuff, or else you get yourself confused. Click the joint button. It's asking you to select a component, so I'll select this component, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to choose this bottom edge. Now notice that when I'm hovering the mouse near this bottom edge, that little circle can either flip so it's on the flat there, or it will flip so it's on the edge of that joint. I'm just going to have it on the flat on that edge, and click, and it's going to, remember I said it's going to align with this edge. We want it sitting flat, not on the edge like that, on the flat, and click, and if I change the view, it's going to come together. But the problem here is it's like if I connect animate, it's joined together as a slider, but we know that's not true. It should be a rigid joint. If you make a rigid joint, the pieces will eventually be glued together as a rigid joint. Normally I'd just click OK and leave it at that, but for our project, what I'm asking you to do is create an exploded view. That means the joint's pulled apart. So in fact, we are actually going to do a slider. It's going to be a slider because this joint would slide together. So it's guessing it wants me to slide along the z-axis. So that's not true. So let's have a look at the y-axis. That's the correct one. If I chose the x-axis, it would be going the wrong way. So it is the y-axis. And it actually slides past the joint. I'll show you how to fix that in a moment. So we click OK. And if I simply click on this component now and drag it, I can drag it in and out of that joint. See if I can get that back in place where it should be. Now, what we want to do is make sure it doesn't slide too far. So we're going to set limits. So if you click on these joints here and hover over the slider joint, you get this little red button, Edit Joint Limits. We're going to click on that. Now this can be a bit weird how this works, but we want to have a minimum and a maximum placement for this joint. And each of these icons show something. So if I drag that out, and if I'm unsure, I can click this Animate. Yeah, that does the right thing. So if that was in the wrong place, I could drag this slider to a different place until they're sitting in the right place. So this slider's set, and this slider's set. I could have typed the sizes in there, but fiddle around with that, you should get it right. Click the animation button, it'll show you how to do that. And then simply click OK. So again, I can drag that out. It'll only go so far now. Alright, change it to a view that you like. We're going to simply do a render. So I think that looks good. That displays what the joint looks like, shows you the joint. So let's go over to the render page, click render, and what you do here in the render page, you get the view how you want, facing the way you want, and then simply hit the render button. It's going to go through and take some time, and when this slider gets all the way over to here somewhere, it'll be finished. I'm going to pause this and come back when it's finished. Alright, my render's finished. You can tell by the blue bar it's gone all the way to this little marker here. If I slid that marker along, it'd render for even longer. But anyway, there's my rendered view. Now please note, if I change the view, if I move this in any way, I'd have to re-render again. So I just leave it as is. I'm going to simply capture the image by clicking that button. Usually just leave this all the same, you don't have to change much there. Click OK. Now, normally this tick box won't be in. So what you would need to do is put the tick box in, choose a place where you want to save it, and obviously click save. If I don't do this, it upload it to the cloud. So just for the process of what I'm asking you to do, save it to your computer and click save. And then of course you can add that to your document. Thank you.